Recording in progress.
All right, I'd like to call the Tuesday, October 19th meeting of the St. Joseph County Board of Commissioners to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, first item on the agenda, opening reading of bids. I'll note there are none. Move on to reports and requests. First is the Board of Commissioners, and that is the accounts payable docket. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Counselor,
Have to go aye.
We should, based upon the fact that we've had virtual meetings, I think in order to make sure that we have a standard practice in how we vote and we don't have confusion when we have virtual meetings, I would encourage you to consider having roll call votes on odd items and just make that a pattern in practice. There's only 3 of you. It doesn't take that long. So that would be my recommendation, sir.
all
That's
right.
up to you all to
That's
choose.
fine with me. Why don't you start us off?
Commissioner Dieter, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Fleming, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Castelny, how do you vote?
Aye. All right, next we move to the business of the month, which is Busy Hands of Michiana. Commissioner Fleming.
Okay. The Busy Hands of Michiana is all volunteer and new profit charity. And it's located, and I'm so happy about this, is 920 South 23rd Street, River Park United Methodist Church, South Bend. Donated materials are used to create items that are special, therapeutic, and comforting to those in need, and are distributed through various agencies within the community. And there is never a fee charged to anyone who is in need of the items that are distributed. And a wide variety of items are made, ranging from items for Alzheimer's and Ostom's patients, breast cancer and heart patients, nursing home, hospice care patients, homeless children and infants. And in addition, in the regular interns above, Busy Hands is often asked to help with annual projects to create a product for a special need for an agency or group. So this is who it is. It's a Busy Hands of Michiana. So I'm appropriate because I'm United Methodist too, and I just want you to know that I am praying for every person struggling with health problems, and I want to please help them, heal them, and let them enjoy life. That's what I'm just praying and hoping for, and this is what I'm glad that they're helping with too. So, great. So are they here? The Busy Hands of, there they are, yay! Yay. Thank you. Here.
If you want to come up, you want to say a couple of words about the great things
Yeah,
that you
anybody?
do, and then we can get a picture. If you want to come and speak up at the microphone, if you like, or,
Over there, right there. Yeah,
Yep.
over there, uh-huh.
Come on, Jack. You gotta help.
Is this okay?
That's perfect.
My name's Elizabeth Fribley. I'm the coordinator. I'm stepping in for our director who's on vacation this month. We've made 1,200 items so far. We've given out more than 1,200 items. We've worked 1,600 hours. We make walker bags, wheelchair bags, shawls, items for autistic kids, weighted blankets, and weighted vests, and fidget toys. And everything we make, we give away free.
Yes,
Yeah.
Thank you.
And
thank you.
so we rely on donations and
Right.
to continue.
Awesome, thank you very much.
thank you. If you want to come up, we can get a picture.
Okay.
take it out of the plastic.
So you'd be wearing black robes just to get used to it.
There used to be one back there.
Right, next up, we have Citizen of the Month. Nancy, if you'd care to, you want to come up and say a couple of words and... So our Citizen of the Month is Lisa Greco.
So we wanted to nominate Lisa Greco when I was tasked by my executive director with rolling out some more marketing for the PSAP in order to attract talent. Marketing's not my wheelhouse, so I reached out to one of the smartest people I know and one of the most inspiring leaders I know and asked for help. Dr. Greco is a professor with Bethel College. She just happened to have a business class starting, and we reached out and said, help. And she jumped in and made us our entire class project. But it's not just that. Anytime we've reached out and needed some help with leadership ideas and those kinds of ideas, Lisa's always been the first one to step up and say, how can I help? So we really appreciate it, and we wanted her to be recognized for what she does for us and for the community and for her students. There are probably thousands of people that would echo my sentiments this morning. So, Dr. Greco, thank you. Thank you for what you've done for us.
If you'd like to come up and say a couple of words, because I'm sure you're really excited to do that.
She had no clue. I told her I just needed her to help fight on our behalf for something, so she was in there.
You have 10 minutes to fill.
Oh, well, I thought I was here to help her ask for funding, which they could use for some training devices, but, yeah, I appreciate this so much, but it's not me. On that particular project, it was my students. I just cut them loose. They did an amazing job, and actually, Nancy and I learned so much from them on how to reach out marketing-wise to younger people today. So we got a whole lesson on Q codes and TikTok and all those other kinds of things that we barely knew how to operate. And the things that they came up were absolutely beautiful, picture perfect. You couldn't have gotten better from a marketing agency had you paid tens of thousands of dollars for it. And I was happy to see those posters and rack cards and video spots. Actually, they created even video spots put into use for them. And I think we're having some success with it, so I really appreciate that. But again, it's not just me, it was my students. And anytime I've been able to help 911, I always bring with me the best team of people that I can find. So it's truly a team effort. So thank you for this recognition. I appreciate it.
Thank you. If you want to come up, Nancy, you too, we can get a picture.
What I like what it says here, though, it says Lisa is a professor at Bethel University and an absolute mentor to anyone who asks for her time and advice. So good for you. Good for you.
Perfect. Thanks.
And then this year's Youth of the Month, we had a scheduling conflict, so they will be here, our first meeting in November, but it worked out nicely because we can celebrate last month's Youth of the Month. Commissioner Dieter.
Jalen, come up to the podium, please, and remove your mask. Mom, do you want to come up with them? Grandma? Come on now. Okay. Take a breath, Jalen. Okay, last month, due to difficulties, we weren't able to have Jalen here, but now we do. So he is honored with the August Youth of the Month. Jalen, born and raised in South Bend, Indiana. Jalen takes pride in participating within the community and helping others in need. At a younger age, as he is 13 now, Jalen asked his mom why people are on the corners holding signs. His mother explained that sometimes people run into hard times. Since then, Jalen would always ask if he can give them money or food. He took pride and still to this day enjoys helping people. Following in Tina's footsteps, Jalen decided to start his own business. He then began to sell lemonade and cookies at a stand, and later, because Officer Glon stopped by, got some national and local publicity of all the things that he has done. Jalen, after doing this, thinks it's going to be a great idea to also incorporate some of his friends to go out, so he would be a little entrepreneur in the neighborhood of selling things like that. So it's awesome that he's done that. His entire life and his family's life have been based on helping other people, so that's why he's here. I had the fortune to have him and his brother play golf, and now his mom takes it up. I don't know how good they are, but so again, this is a great job. We appreciate all that you have done, and besides this lovely plaque, you're going to get this beautiful golf club that's been passed down through Dieters, and an NFL player used to use it and all that stuff, so you can hit the ball straight instead of crooked. So would you like to say anything, young man?
Well, I mean, the most I can say right now is thank you a lot for letting people know that I like to help the community and help others around me, and not only build up what's good for me, but everyone else around me, including my mom, my brother, my granny, and just doing good for society, basically. Just letting people know that it's more and it's extra to do that can help benefit you, but also people around you. So, I don't know, it's just crazy that I'm even right here talking to people. I'm just nervous, I'm excited, I'm sad, I'm happy, and I'd also like to thank my mom and my granny. They were always there for me. They were my main support. When I told them, I'm tired, running back and forth, they said, it's okay, just keep going. They helped give me ideas of what I should do for my stands, and just a lot of the inspiration has been from them. They're the one that have kept me up on my feet and just built my business to where it is right now. But
Awesome.
Thank you.
Good job, buddy. Tina?
Wow. You want me to say?
Sure.
If I have to say anything, it's just that, Jalen, I am really proud of you. As a mom, you say things to your children and think that it's going in one ear and out the other. So it's just really good to know that it stick. I try to tell him all the time that we're really blessed, to have things that we have. And some people, they're just not at that point, or they may be having a hard time. So to see that he just has a passion to help other people is really heartwarming as a parent. But I am very proud of you, Jalen.
I think that's a sign of a true leader, that when Jalen given accolades, his comment is he wanted to thank other people. I think that speaks, and I don't know you, Jalen, but I feel like I do after the remarks and seeing all the great work that you do.
Granny? Portage Avenue Foot Clinic, right? Okay.
Next week. I just want to say thank you. I'm so proud of my grandson, and that's all.
Thank you.
Anything bad you can say? Not clean up his room. Anything little dirt we could get.
Daddy helps him supervise.
Well, if you all want to come up, we'll get a picture. Let's give him a round of applause too. Again.
Great, thank you.
And these are some of the great things that we get to do from a Board of Commissioners standpoint. Recognize the great people in our community doing great things. And a lot of times, maybe we do a few things that aren't quite as comfortable, but it's great that we can celebrate great people in our community. And now it's time to celebrate someone great within St. Joe County government. It's time for our Employee of the Month, Commissioner Fleming.
Yes, our Employee of the Month is Elizabeth Biggerstaff. Are you, there you are, yes. Oh, good, yay, yay. Great. It says, Liz is a strong team player and makes everyone feel important, heard, and cared for. She helps lead the nursing department with her experience of fast-paced response and critical thinking. Liz is an asset to our community. She is an amazing nurse. She is our go-to for blood draws and clinical skills, and she's honored to work with her and value her. And we want to recognize her for her years of service and continued quality work in St. Joseph County as she works in Portage Manor. So yes, thank you so much.
Round of applause. Come up and say a couple of words.
There you are.
This is an honor. I wanted to thank everyone, for this perfect opportunity. I've been an employee of St. Joe County for a little over 10 years, and it's not just being an employee, it's being part of a family. That's how I feel. And, really this is just amazing. Thank you.
And just I want to point out too that our Employees of the Month are nominated by their fellow employees. So they make a lasting impact on the people that they work with to the point where someone will make this nomination. So thank you again. If you want to come up, another round of applause.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you. Thank you for all you do.
All right, now, let's move on to a Memorandum of Understanding, Annual Burn Justice Assistance Grant Program Award.
I can address that, Commissioner Castelli.
Excellent.
As is set forth annually, this is a grant that is entered into between the county cities of South Bend and Mishawaka. Just for your information, the burn grant, according to the state, is a grant that has a lot of flexibility to it. It can be used to support additional personnel, purchase equipment, supplies, contractual support, training, technical assistance, and information systems in various areas of law enforcement, mental health, drug treatment, corrections, prevention, prosecution, and law enforcement. I did inquire as to the split this year, as to how the monies are divided. The distribution of the funds between the three parties is based upon FBI statistics. So that's how the monies are divided. So it's something you've done annually. So I'm happy to try to answer any questions that you have, but that's about the extent of it.
Most certainly.
Do you know who applied for this?
The city usually is the one that spearheads this and does all the work and then sends us to ourselves and to the city.
Okay, but you probably don't have a breakdown, because for the general public, the city of South Bend gets 84%, St. Joe County gets 5%, and Mishawaka 9%. but I don't know how the city of South Bend is spending that.
I have no idea.
There's nobody in our Zoom world from the city of South Bend, law enforcement could explain?
I'm not sure how the city would spend their percentage of the grant. It's such a flexible.
Recording stopped.
Maybe they, I mean.
Recording in
flexibility.
progress.
That's okay.
There's so much flexibility in how the grant funds can be used, so they can probably vary.
And
that.
Mr. Woods, if you could move your microphone a little closer.
Sorry. It's such a flexible grant that probably varies from year to year how they spend it, and I would anticipate that's what we do too, but.
Yeah, I'm just curious why South Bend gets 84, or actually 85% of the monies, and specifically what it would go for. So if there's any other, I'd like to table that and I could find more information on that. I don't know, they have a date that just has to,
I know they would like to get it signed, but I've not been told there's a drop dead date of any type.
okay.
Yeah, and those are my questions too, and, want to know exactly how it's going to be used, who's going to use it, kind of thing, what for, kind of thing, so anyway. Sure. Thank you.
Sweet.
Okay.
Then is there a motion?
Motion to table it?
Second?
Mr. Woods?
Can we table
We
it?
have a motion to table and a second. Commissioner Dieter, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Fleming, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Castellini, how do you vote?
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Thank you, sir. All right, now we move on to bills passed by the county council at a public hearing held on Tuesday, October 12, 2021. County council took the following action. I'm going to read a portion of the bills and ordinances that were passed. Bill 121, Ordinance 9221, which is solid waste budget. And then Bill 10121, Ordinance 9321, which is the Airport Authority. Bill 10221, Ordinance 9421, setting and establishing the tax rates. Bill 11021, Ordinance 9621, salary amendment for the auditor. Bill 10721, Ordinance 9721 for county, salary ordinance for county jail and police. And the same for Bill 10821, Ordinance 9821. And then Bill 11121, Ordinance 9921, setting salaries for the sheriff department. And Bill 10621, Ordinance 10221, changing some permitted uses in the agricultural district. Any questions or comments regarding any of these items? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve these ordinances?
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Can we have
I'm
a
sorry,
roll call?
roll
vote on
call.
that?
Yep, my fault.
Commissioner Dieter, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Fleming, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Castellini, how do you vote?
Aye. All right, then, the first item for action then is Bill 10321, Ordinance 9521, that establishes salaries and fixes the number of employees for 2022. Are there any questions or comments from the board?
Yes, I've got a concern of a couple items on this. First, the coroner's office, their expenditures are going up 40%, which is about 215,000. Autopsy rates are up 78%. So there's some questions there that I have, or mainly more concerns. Secondly, the prosecutor's office, who no longer has a homicide unit, is keeping 3 of those investigators at $71,000 apiece. That's a concern. But the other major point that I've seen since the 10 months I've been here is the kind of a lack of a plan when we give raises and how we do raises and what the parameters of giving a specific person and/or position in county government. So myself and Councilmember Krasinski will work with our HR director next year to develop a plan, because there really hasn't been a study. The stuff that I found, the last study they had was in the early 90s on one and another one in the mid-2000s. So definitely we need to look into that. So that's one of my, well, three of my major concerns of this overall budget. So if there's any other questions or comments?
Any other questions or comments from the board?
Well, I just have a concern that by spending so much money, we as a county are going to be losing the money that we've had and dropping down. So I just always wanted to make sure that we planned our budget and everything, that it was within what we had so that we weren't dropping anything down. So that's a concern that I have, is so much money that we're spending, so that's a concern.
Are there any other questions or comments from the board? If not, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to veto 9521.
I'll second that.
Commissioner, we have a motion and a second to veto the budget. Commissioner Dieter, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Fleming, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Castelny, how do you vote?
Before I vote, I'll make a couple of comments. This is a very difficult decision. I like a large number of aspects of this budget. I think it's important that we continue to pay our employees a fair salary, and that we do a better job of being able to attract, but more importantly, maintain the great people that we have. I wish this would have come maybe over a 2-year span, because we've got a lot of federal funds that have kind of an influx of federal funding. And while that's great and that's helped us, increase the deficit, and we worked very hard to keep the reserves that we've got. And it would have been nicer to see this more staggered going in. And then I would agree with Commissioner Dieter that we have more of a sustained approach, because there were some departments also that did not get a larger increase than others did. So I think it would be nice to have some consistency in doing that. Once again, I appreciate all the work that was done by council, by the auditor, by the Board of Commissioners as well. And I also apologize from a health standpoint. I was unable to be engaged in the last 2 or 3 weeks that I would normally have been. So I take some responsibility for that as well. But that's, all those said, I will vote aye to veto this budget. All right, moving on to Bill 1221, Ordinance 121, which is amending the salaries and number of employees for the Health Department. Are there any comments or questions from the Board of Commissioners?
Yeah, I have a comment. If we could, Dr. Einherz could come up and explain the grant a little more in detail. I think we met yesterday and I have some questions, but I think I have some follow-up questions on that, so.
Yeah, thank you so much. Bob Einherz, Health Officer, 8th floor, County City Building. First, I'd just like to thank you, all three of you commissioners, for supporting our application to the CDC. And I'd like to say I'm particularly proud of Cassie White, who is the Director of the Health Equity, Epidemiology, and Data Unit here within St. Joseph County Department of Health, and Taylor Martin, our licensed clinical social worker. The two of them put this grant together, worked very hard on it, and I'm very proud of their work and of the results. What I'd like to do, if it's okay with you, is ask Cassie to come to the podium, and she has a short PowerPoint presentation that will describe the grant and the activities of the grant. In a nutshell, this grant is about improving the health of our community, particularly addressing health disparities. It's going to bring in about $3 million, just short of $3 million over the next 3 years to the county. This is to bring on a team of community health workers, and it also helps offset some of our own salaries here within the Department of Health, thus enlarging our fund balance. But let me defer to Cassie if that's okay with you, and she can go through this presentation, and then we can respond to any of the questions you might have.
Thank you.
Good morning, Cassie White with the Department of Health. I am the Director of Health Equity, Epidemiology, and Data on the 8th floor of the County City Building. As Dr. Einters shared, I played a role in submitting and writing the grant proposal for the community health workers for COVID response and resilient communities. Through being awarded these funds, with roughly $3 million, we are, oops, okay. No problem. We will be able to achieve and address these 3 goals, which are split into 3 categories of train, deploy, and engage. The train goal is to increase the skills, capacity, and roles of community health workers to provide services and support for our public health response efforts among priority populations within the communities of St. Joseph County. The deploy goal is to increase our workforce of community health workers delivering services, and the engage goal is then to increase the utilization of community resources and clinical services for those at highest risk for poor health outcomes among priority populations within communities. We currently already have 3 community health workers, a part of the health equity, epidemiology, and data team that provide these services to the community here in St. Joseph County. I wanted to give a little bit of a background of how we identified the different focus areas of what we proposed to the CDC. And the 2 maps here, the one on my left is the percent vaccinated for COVID as of May 2021. And the darker the blue is the greater the vaccination by census tract. And then the map on my right is the percent of uninsured based on the population within St. Joseph County. And the darker the blue for this is the greater percent of individuals who are uninsured within that census tract. And the last one that we looked at was the social vulnerability index that the CDC puts together, and that's based on 4 categories, which is the socioeconomic status, the household composition and disability, minority status and language, and the housing type and transportation. And for this map, the darker the blue, the greater vulnerability that you have by census tract. So through those identifications of the different areas, we identified these focus areas for our community health workers to provide services. That does not mean that we are not going to provide services to the other parts of the county. That's what our 3 current community health workers do. But the new team of community health workers would take a priority working with the populations in these identified census tracts. We define a community health worker as someone who can improve the health outcomes, reduce disparities, and save money by helping people navigate the healthcare system, find community resources, and live healthier lives. Our community health workers focus on these 7 areas, which is also what we put into the proposal of the same areas that the additional community health workers would focus on. And that's providing COVID-19 testing, social needs assessments, and that assessment goes through and identifies different areas such as housing, transportation, food, primary care. We ask those questions and then help those community members identify those resources and connect them to those resources in the community. And then the insurance navigation is reflected based of that uninsured map, where all of our community health workers are licensed insurance navigators, where they can sit down with a community member and help them apply for insurance and or navigate the marketplace if they are not income qualified. And then health cafes, which are education-based, providing different education on different health outcomes that are identified as a priority for the community. And then they're also trained to provide blood pressure screenings and lead screenings for children between the ages of 1 and 6. And this shows the training that our community health workers go through. The top under certifications is what we as the Department of Health provide for certification. They go through the Health Visions Midwest which is a 5-week process to become a certified community health worker, and then the license insurance navigation, which is through the state of Indiana. And then the educational and the practical is a part of the 2-week onboarding process for our community health workers, which goes into infection control measures, the epidemiology of COVID-19, adverse childhood experiences, social determinants of health, and motivational interviewing. And then the practical side is they are taught how to do COVID-19 rapid and PCR testing. And then, as referenced before, lead testing, and then they also go through a checkoff protocol for proper PPE training, and then they also go through CPR certification. A couple weeks ago, we met with different organizations throughout the county to share about this funding and how we plan to partner with them. And that's through community awareness and mobilization to help increase the resources provided to our community members and to advocate for community health workers to encourage the community members to work with the community health workers. And then also provide space for the community health workers to meet for insurance navigation or COVID testing or the health cafes. And I wanted to show you, these are just some of the community partners based off of that meeting that have committed to working with us, with our current community health workers and just us as a Department of Health to expand the different services and connecting community members to different resources. And these are the deliverables through this funding, and that's to hire 8 community health workers, train those community health workers in infection control measures, and complete the certification training programs identified a few slides back, and to complete an asset-based community development training, and that's to help with the coalitions that we already have and help build those coalitions and raise the voices of our community members, and then also continue to identify different community partners. And then to host 48 health education events in focus areas, and then connect community members to the identified resources that they need. And so that is just a brief overview, and I'll invite Dr. Einters back up to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there, in fact, any questions from the board?
Yeah, just part of the expenditures, you have contractual services for $96,200. What is that?
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
And I'll defer to Cassie for this. She has better knowledge than I have, a recollection of it. But most of that is contractual services, working with the Reagan Street Institute and Indiana University School of Medicine to help us with the data collection. Particularly, they have a group of community health workers that they've been working with down there using a REDCap database. And that expertise, they're going to be working with Cassie and her team, her data analysts, training them to then manage that so that in subsequent years they'll be able to manage that on their own. Do you have anything else to?
Yes, and then also we're partnering with the Civic Canopy to do the asset-based community building.
So it all goes to Indiana University? All that money?
Does that money go to, no, the asset base is not Indiana University. The Indiana University contract is $75,000.
Correct.
Okay, is that part of the services?
Come again?
It says contractual services, $96,200.
Yes, that'll be part of this. So 75 of that is for Indiana University as a subcontract. That is correct.
Okay, do you know why that wasn't listed itself and then the remaining under?
It's listed in our application to the CDC.
Okay, and I'm just looking at the budget thing you prepared on this.
Yeah, it's a subcontracted.
Amy.
Yeah, Amy's working on the subcontract, if that's your question.
All right.
Miss
Yeah.
Amy.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, yes, Amy Rupi, Administrator for the Department of Health with offices on the 8th and 9th floor. Previously, everything that's contractual services, I've bundled together in one account. It's
Okay,
not
that's cool.
specified out. I
Yeah,
can do that in
I'm
the
just-
future.
I
Yeah,
was just
no, it's
looking
just
at
all
that.
put together as a contractual service.
Okay, gotcha. So the other thing, if you apply for this grant, according to what I read on pages 5 and 6, you have to adhere to all the rules of what's in the grant, correct?
It is a federal award, and like all federal awards, we do have to adhere, similar to the federal awards that the county has received previously.
Okay, well, that's the issue I have with some of the things, and I'll just hit a couple of them. You have to comply with existing and/or future directives and guidance from the Secretary regarding control and spread. You have to be in consultation and coordination with HHS, provide information on the condition of the individual COVID patient regardless of individual's home jurisdiction or appropriate health measures, social distancing, home isolation. This is interesting. Assist the United States government in the implementation and enforcement of federal orders related to quarantine and isolation.
These are things that we're already doing and obligated to do by the state of Indiana.
I know, but
None
the
of
legislation
this-
had a House bill that you don't control that, the local officials
Excuse me,
here do that.
all of the activities that you've just articulated, we currently do and are obligated to do per state of Indiana. Indiana Department of Health, Governor Holcomb, we have to report to them. That is a current obligation. It's what we have been doing.
Okay, I disagree, but that's fine.
I will say, I had conversations with the attorney for the health department yesterday, and he informed me directly that items 2 and 3 would be new requirements. So that is from Mr. Levin, Dr. Einters, and I had a conversation with him as to the items 2 dealing with coordinating with HHS, and in particular, number 3, assisting the U.S. government in the implementation and enforcement of federal orders related to quarantine and isolation. He straight up told me those are new. So,
I appreciate that perhaps we're talking apples and oranges here, but currently we do inform the public, the school systems, and others of CDC recommendations when they are pertinent to what it is that we're doing. We do not necessarily follow those rules, I'm sorry, they're not rules, follow those recommendations. And so CDC may have recommendation X. When people ask that, or quite frankly, we share that, we then share different advice and have the freedom to do so. So assisting if you will, HHS, CDC, doesn't mean that we follow in lockstep with them if we feel it's inappropriate, and we have plenty of instances where that has been the case.
So that being the case, there's also language that says the award's contingent upon the agreement by the recipient to comply with the existing and future guidance from the HHS Secretary regarding control of the spread of COVID. It's your belief that even though we're making that representation that we're going to comply with existing and future guidance, that you have discretion to vary from it, sir?
That is correct. It is guidance. These are recommendations. Now, I'm not suggesting that you or I would disobey a federal law. I'm not suggesting that we would do that. But certainly their recommendations and their guidance we take as guidance and as recommendations. And Dr. Fox and I have a record of going against a number of the CDC recommendations in the past, and we will continue to do so.
Because you're not adhering to what is
Right.
in the grant of what they want.
I thought that in what way am I not adhering?
Our attorney just alluded to that you then came back with, well, we just give them information, we don't have to adhere to that. So I'm confused of what your own attorney
It asks us
advised.
it asks us to assist the CDC, and we do that, and we will do that, but it doesn't mean that we will follow in lockstep with what they say.
Okay, well, I don't understand that, but,
Well, it's a recommendation, Commissioner Dieter, and the CDC does not.
well, I don't see this as a recommendation. I see it as what is written in the grant and the language there.
You have to follow it.
And then the health attorney.
And we will
explain.
follow it,
Right.
but it doesn't mean that we will follow in terms of assisting them, and we will disseminate the information. We're not going to hide the voice of the CDC under a bushel basket, if you will.
Well,
Anything else, Commissioner Eater?
Not at this time.
Commissioner Fleming, any questions or comments?
Well, I'm a little concerned because, again, originally I wanted to, when we approved it, I wanted to help our citizens. But I don't want our citizens to be forced to do things that they don't need to do.
What are we
So that
forcing our
local
citizens
health-
to do?
Well, again, our local health department that should not be locked into pushing the federal CDC recommendations that they've changed as far as, you know, having your vaccine mandates, mask mandates. And again, okay, we have to look at what our federal government has always been. Our country is freedom. We have a freedom of religion, freedom of speech, and the freedom means no vaccine or mask mandates, okay? So what my concern is that when you do this now, you're going to have to do whatever the federal government is dictating. And I'm saying, no, we need freedom.
They don't dictate, these are recommendations that you just referred to. They are recommendations, they are not dictums to us. And you and I are free to share those recommendations, to take those recommendations or not. In addition, I agree with you 100%, Commissioner Fleming. This is a matter of freedom of expression, freedom of speech, and it is important that all voices are heard, including the CDC's.
Right. And then, you know, our state Senate Bill 5 then, you know, said, oh, well, you can't make your decisions because then that has to be approved by the county government, but it'd have to be approved by our county council here in our county.
And I agree with you. It's exactly what we did with the mask mandates, right?
Well,
It was the county council that made that decision,
they did, but anyway.
and it was us that brought it to them.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm just concerned about having the federal government encourage, no, you have to do this because you took our grant. No, 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 no. That's just a concern I have, so I'm sorry.
Are there any other questions or comments from the board before I open it up to the public? All right, I will now open up comments to the public. Don't go too far, Doctor, because we'll have a few questions after the public speaks. But you can sit down now, but I think just let them folks go through. But, all right, anything from the public, folks?
This is Amy Drake. Can you hear me okay?
If I could ask,
Yes.
I thought public comments came afterwards.
The commissioners have discretion to have public comment whenever they want, Dr. Einter's, on an agenda item. Sometimes they allow it before they take a vote on a matter, and sometimes at the end of the meeting.
It's Amy Drake from Granger. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like you to vote no today on this $3 million CDC grant for our health department, primarily because this grant ties us to the federal government in ways that are unclear and possibly causes us to cede some of our local control. By taking this award, we are agreeing to comply with existing and future directives. We don't know what the future holds, and the word comply says that we need to do it, not that it's recommended. As you know, we currently don't follow all the CDC's guidance on COVID. The CDC has recommended that even vaccinated people wear masks inside. We're not doing this in St. Joe County. We leave this up to people's personal discretion. But by accepting this grant, the question is, by accepting this grant, would we start to be required to shift course on these kind of questions? Do we want this kind of federal control in St. Joe County? The CDC has flip-flopped and has been consistently unreliable and wrong. And are we supposed to be locked into following all the rules that come down from them? People are tired of the CDC. They're tired of watching them intervene into our lives and only making problems worse. Directives from DC on COVID have worsened the problems associated with COVID, certainly not made them better. We've had lockdowns that weren't effective, business closures, unemployment, underemployment, mental health issues, kids being suffocated by masks in classroom and losing years of learning, and now a supply chain crisis. Furthermore, this grant says we are agreeing to assist the United States government in the implementation and enforcement of federal orders related to quarantine and isolation. I have no idea how the federal government or our local health department would carry out this plan. Will people be contact traced into quarantine with guards at the door? Will health department officials round up COVID positive patients and make sure they don't leave their houses? The idea sounds frightening, like a police state, so why would we agree to this? Finally, this grant money targets minorities. The goal is to convince them to vaccinate. At this point, we've all heard the vaccine message and we've made our own choices based on risk factors and personal beliefs. So why are we singling out minorities and treating them like they don't know how to make their own healthcare choices when it comes to an experimental vaccination? Why do they in particular need the government to come in and tell them what to think? This is demeaning. And ironically, both the CDC and our local health department have declared racism a public health crisis. Listen, giving our health department more money doesn't make sense. At the state level this year, we passed SB 5 to rein in health departments because we found that our health departments had become drunk with power.
You have 30 seconds left.
Thank you. And we're pushing crazy restrictions. Here in St. Joe County, our health department pushed the first mandate in the state, which they got sued for and then admitted was overreach. Our health department was reprimanded by the Attorney General when it shut down churches or tried to shut down churches. Our health department wanted to limit us to groups of 10 and enforce a 10 p.m. curfew. We do not need our health department to grow anymore with 10 more workers and $3 million worth of more money. We need a smaller footprint, not a larger one. So please turn down this grant.
Thank you.
May I speak?
Most certainly. Please state your name and address.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Nix, and my address is 17901 Sable Ridge Drive in South Bend, Indiana. I would like to respectfully disagree with the previous speaker. I'm delighted by the idea that we could bring $3 million into our community health department. I'm excited about the prospect of community health workers going into those underserved communities that are in dire need of assistance. When we improve that,
You're breaking up on us, Cheryl.
part of what we experienced over this last year and a half with the pandemic is a science experiment. We literally were involved in a science experiment where, as evidence came in, hypotheses were changed, and as evidence changed, directions were changed. This was no one's fault. This is how science works. So it's unfortunate that people have seen this as overreach and something oppressive, when instead what I feel is that our health department has saved lives. And as someone in the over 65 demographic, I am thankful. I am thankful for what has been done, and I would like to see this money approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Cheryl
Yes.
S.
Good morning. First of all, I'd like to thank you for allowing public comment before you take your vote. As elected officials, I appreciate that you'll hear our voice before you make your decision. I like the questions that were asked today about what the strings are that are attached to this money, and I would have to agree with Amy that we appear to be giving away our rights to the federal government. And if we think about the order of powers that were granted by our Constitution, why would we possibly give away our power to the federal government when they are the lowest level on the ladder? I also do not feel as though we should be forced into complying. I am very concerned about what that word means. And I would like for you to vote no on this today.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, Brian Jones. I live in Granger.
Go ahead, Brian.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I want to just kind of reiterate some of the things that other people have said. There's a lot of government money kind of being handed out. And the problem with all of it is it all sounds well and good that we can get $3 million. There's probably some good things we could do with $3 million. But the concern is the strings that come attached with it. And you've seen it infiltrate down into every single facet of pretty much everyone's life. It's affecting how school boards make their decisions. And the problem with 3 years worth of money is when the 3 years of grants goes away and we hire 10 new people and we do all these new programs, then who picks up the $1 million a year extra after that? It's people like me and everyone calling into this phone that lives in the county. So long term, this is just a burden on taxpayers for what right now appears to be the government trying to give money out at a time that they can use to give extra money to local authorities in order to take your vote and your ability to govern with what you are responsible for governing and leave the tax burden to taxpayers after the money goes away. Secondly, there really doesn't seem to be any consistency locally around how rules are applied. I mean, just look at masking. People are moving around this chamber free of masks, whereas at school board meetings in schools, everybody has to wear a mask every day. So I don't really understand what the consistency is. Why not there? Why here? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And it's all the government infiltration into these different organizations by way of offering money with the strings attached. So I highly recommend that you vote no. If there's programs that really are going to benefit the health and welfare of the residents of the county, I'm sure we can find the money somewhere to do it that's not a 3-year deal on a year-to-year basis and fund it appropriately. So I say you vote no. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'll just make a quick comment. Part of the reason why folks are allowed to be masked and not others, because it's up to each individual entity to decide how they want to handle that. So I think that's kind of the foundation of what this country is based upon, that we let each individual who has authority over their own group do what they want to do. So I think that's why that happens. All right, anyone else? Going once.
I don't know if you can hear. Can you hear me? Can you hear Dorsey Gordon?
Yes, Dorsey. Please state your address.
Thank goodness. I live at 52108 Plantation Drive in Granger. I really am concerned about accepting this money. I don't need to repeat what everybody else said, but please don't accept this federal money. Let's operate at a local level and let's operate within our means. And I want to thank all of you for your service to our community. I am delighted to live here after 3 years. For 3 years after living in Chicago for 40 years. Please don't become Chicago. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, I'd like to address council.
Okay.
My name is Stephen Whitmer. I live at 56745 Eastview Drive, Osceola, Indiana. I would encourage the council to not accept this money from the government. There's too many strings attached. And after this money is provided by the government, it goes away. Then we'll be stuck with a large portion that's going to be made up locally as far as taxes. Please vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Going once?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Dan Pavich of South Bend, Indiana. And I would encourage, like the others, for you to vote no on this. I think there's a growing distrust of the CDC and the FDA. All you have to do is watch TV, and anytime you see an ad, if you've ever been injured by this drug, call us, we can help you. This rings true of all of that. Okay, this clot shot or vaccination or serum has every indication of that, and so with that, I think anything they offer from the FDA or CDC is subject to change. I think they can change it in a moment's notice, and they have. They flip-flopped on a number of things. I'm a scientist, and the science can change, but you're supposed to do all the science on animals in some cases before you get to the human part. And I'm not sure that's been done, and I'm not sure following their guidance is going to help anything. So please vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Once, twice. All right, I will now close the public portion of this. Good, Dr. Bob, if you could please, I've got a couple of questions for you and some clarification. So you kind of stated that, I mean, we're signing a document that turns over some of our rights to the federal government. Does that happen in other, I mean, is this, your
Code of
attorney
Federal-
said that this is kind of, a couple of these things are new that we haven't typically done before.
Right.
So, but do we always follow the CDC guidelines?
Is this on? Is this microphone on?
Yes.
Okay, good. No, we do not always follow the CDC guidelines, and we're not turning over any of our rights to the federal government.
Okay. So, I mean, another question is, so we've got this grant funding for 3 years. So we're going to be onboarding new county employees, health department employees. When this grant terminates in 3 years, what is the expectation for these new employees?
Every single employee that we hire on this grant is told from the outset that this is grant funded, and that if there is no money and we're unable to identify new funds at the end of those 3 years, their job will be terminated. Okay. That said, as with any business, we are making an investment here, and we expect a return on this investment, both with social good and with financial good. As I've mentioned already previously, part of this funding actually offsets some of our own salaries, and in fact, we're having $50,000, $60,000 per year increase, if you will, to our fund balance because of that. In addition, as we see with any investment, the return on this investment, we will capitalize on this by the good that's being done by the community health workers, and we will attract more funding. In fact, the CDC likely will come with additional grants down the line. Others, community foundations here within the state of Indiana and locally, will be attracted by what we have done here, and we will grow the pot of money available to this county for the health of our county. We will improve the health of the county, and in so doing, unburden the hospitals, unburden hospital systems, and in fact, likely decrease the insurance costs that we're now being charged as a county through the health promotion and disease prevention that we will accomplish through this grant.
And will these new community health workers be solely focused on COVID and COVID activities? Or, I mean, I think we've seen in the presentation, but.
No, exactly right. Exactly right. These individuals will be focused on a whole host of medical conditions. So many medical conditions are in fact impacted by COVID. As you saw in the presentation that Ms. White gave, immediately we are focusing, in addition to COVID, on lead, on insurance navigation, on blood pressure screening, and in fact, as the community health workers are more engaged in their community, they serve as conduits of information from the community to the health department, and we will expect them to be responsive to the health needs that they see within their community. And so individuals who are struggling, for example, with pregnancy, complicated pregnancy, maternal infant morbidity and mortality, that will become likely the purview of the community health workers. There will be other conditions as well across the gamut of medical conditions that we see that they will address, just as we have seen across the country and around the globe with community health workers who have been employed elsewhere.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions or comments from the board before I call for a vote?
Yeah, again, I'm just confused of the words COVID. Comply with the existing, assist the United States government. If you don't adhere to that, I'm sure they could pull the grant. So that's my issue. It doesn't have anything to do with the great work that health department and everybody does. They do a phenomenal job in the community working to keep everybody safe, but just the verbiage in this grant is just a huge red flag to me.
They will pull the grant, as you well know.
That's just my comment. It's not for yours. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and I agree.
All right, if there are no more questions or comments from the board, is there a motion?
I move to veto.
I second that. I was going to veto it.
We have a motion and a second to veto. Commissioner Dieter, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Fleming, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Castelli, how do you vote?
We've had a couple of tough votes this meeting, and this is another one. I mean, we ask our county departments to find grant funding to do things to help offset costs to the county, and so we can, to provide better service to the citizens of our county. We ask them to do that, and here's a situation where the health department, did what we asked them to do, and we authorized them to apply for this. That said, I'm concerned as well that some of the language in this grant indicates that we turn over a little bit more authority than we've typically done in the past. That said, our ability to impact public health, to send more workers into those communities that need that help the most, to help make our county as healthy as possible. The worst case is the federal government can't come in here and force us to do anything. Any action that that the health department would want to take would have to go through county agencies anyway. So the worst that would happen is we might have to refund some of the money that they give us. All those things, though, I will not be voting to veto, so I vote nay.
The motion to veto carries by a vote of 2-1.
Then as a result of this action, then we have bill number 109-21, ordinance 101-21, which is the transfer and appropriation bill. And Council, I believe that we would need to exclude item P from the health department that would appropriate the money that was, that would have gone through had 100-21 passed. Is that correct?
That would be correct, sir. So under the health department items, the items that you vetoed in ordinance number 100-21, bill number 112-21 should be excluded as they've been vetoed.
So then the mechanics of this would be we would vote to pass ordinance 101-21 with the exception of item P.
That is correct, sir.
Okay. Then would we need to take any formal action related to item P, that it would be a separate vote?
The proper action to take on the transfer and appropriation bill number 109-21 would be to vote on the ordinance 101-21 with the exclusion of item P dealing with the health department.
Okay. Does that motion exist?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to vote on the transfer and appropriation bill number 109-21, excluding item P dealing with the health department. Commissioner Dieter, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Fleming, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Castelny, how do you vote?
Aye.
The second item would be to act now upon a transfer and appropriation bill number 109-21, ordinance number 101-21, section P regarding the health department to approve or veto that section of this ordinance.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Is that a motion to veto, Commissioner Fleming?
I thought we just approved 109-21.
You did, with the exception of item P. We're taking up item P separately. What is your desire, to approve or veto item P?
Veto.
We have a motion to veto item P. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to veto item P of the health, relating to the health department of ordinance 101-21, bill number 109-21. Commissioner Dieter, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Fleming, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Castelny, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion carries by a vote of 3-0 to veto item P from the health department, regarding the health department from ordinance 101-21.
And just note, my vote against was if that item was no longer not passed, there's no point in passing that in the transfer and appropriation ordinance as well. All right. Let's move on to Health Department. Request approval to apply for a preparedness grant through the Indiana State Department of Health. Miss Amy.
Amy Rupi, Administrator for the Department of Health, with offices on the 8th and 9th floor of the County City Building. And before you is a request for support for a grant through the Indiana State Department of Health. It is in the amount of $25,000, and it will help support our public health coordinator and his public emergency response program.
Questions or comments?
Could you explain the program? Well, let me back up. Do you guys work with EMA or EMA?
No.
Okay, so just explain, just a short synopsis of what y'all do.
Our public health coordinator, he is actually within our budget, and he helps coordinate with local agencies if we were to have a public health emergency. He has pods set up, points of dispensing, where we have contracts or MOUs in place with some schools around the area. In case of emergency, we have those contracts already set up. These funds would help support that program. If we were to need PPE again, if we need to have volunteers come on board, whatever we need to help address a public health emergency, these funds would be used to help support our coordinator in those efforts.
Okay, have y'all ever worked with EMA?
Yeah, I believe he does, yeah.
Okay, but
Yeah.
not,
Not through this.
Okay,
Yeah, this
cool.
is
All
completely
right.
separate. This is
Thank
just
you.
for the Department of Health.
thanks.
Any other questions or comments? Is there a motion?
A motion to approve this applying for this grant for the health department.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to apply for a preparedness grant through the United States Department of Health. Commissioner Dieter, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Fleming, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Castellini, how do you vote?
Aye. Thank you,
Carries
Amy.
unanimous.
Thank you.
Moving on to Public Safety Communication Consortium, item A, request approval of a contract for snow removal with Jewel Property Maintenance.
Hi, good morning. Teresa Cromartie here. I'm the administrator for PSAP. And we are just requesting to renew the Jewel Property Maintenance. They're responsible for the snow removal during our winter months.
Any questions or comments?
Sure. Have you guys always contracted out to have your area plowed?
Yes, we have. I know we had this renewed last year and in 2019. Beyond that, I am not sure.
And actually,
But at least for the last 2 years.
we did that in-house for the first couple of years, and it didn't go very well because highway, it was too dependent upon other activities, so it just made more sense to outsource that particular piece.
Okay. One more question, was that bid out?
It was not.
It's not a problem. As it relates to being, this is a service contract for a small amount, so you can single source this. So there's not a problem with that. If you want an RFP issued and go through the process or invite quotes, that's at the commissioner's discretion.
No, on the average, you know what y'all have paid the last couple of years for that?
That's a great question. I would, without looking at the budget, I would say maybe 15,000.
Okay, and that all comes out of your own budget?
Correct.
Okay. My 2 cents, I think that rate, hourly rate may be pretty high, but you guys decide how you want to do that, but I think that's a little expensive.
Any other questions or comments? So I guess Commissioner Dieter, are you comfortable moving forward, or would you like this to be?
I don't think it's snowing hopefully. I would like to, if you guys could just try to find some other areas, because anyway, we can all save money, but I think $82 an hour is pretty expensive. So I would make a motion to table this until we can get more info.
Really?
I will second that.
There's a motion and a second to table this agenda item. Commissioner Dieter, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Fleming, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Castellini, how do you vote?
Aye. Next, request approval of a contract with Network Solutions.
Okay. Sal Parisi is here. He's the IT manager, and he will speak regarding that contract.
Hello. So what that is basically it's just hardware and software renewal. It's the hardware warranty. Provides us a year with all of our equipment that we have set up here at Mishawaka PD, South Bend PD, and St. Joe County for our public safety ring. This is basically just our security, security software and hardware renewal as it pertains to, you know, everything that we have in-house that we use to, you know, keep everything up and running. So.
Any questions or comments?
Yeah, Sal, hey, does this include the upgrade for in the northeast part of the county up there where radio signals sometimes don't get heard?
No, this is just basically hardware. So if anything fails, it's also our security, you know, security software that we have in place and everything. It's that. It's mainly through Cisco, you know, that makes the hardware and stuff like that. It's basically just a renewal for hardware. It doesn't. It's not anything new. It's basically, you know, like I said, just hardware and software renewal. Keep our services current. If anything fails, you know, it's usually 24-hour turnaround time, sometimes 4-hour, sometimes 20, you know, sometimes 8 by 5, depending on what redundancy we have. You know, with our hardware, we've scaled down the contract.
I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, no problem.
Any other questions or comments? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Commissioner Dieter,
Aye.
how do you vote? Commissioner Fleming, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Costello, how do
Aye.
you vote?
Moving on to old business. There is none. Public comments. Are there any public comments?
Hi, Jack Daly. I live at 217 West Michigan Street in New Carlisle. I just wanted to take an opportunity to address you guys and go on the record on a couple of things that have been in the public eye recently. There's been a lot of chatter about the possible parceling out and repurposing the Portage Manor facilities. You know, I watched Mr. Shalliol issue an apology for not including y'all in the process before he tried to kick that can down the road without going through, you know, the proper procedures. I'm sure that apologies of that quality are hard to find everywhere, but I think we're expecting more from Mr. Shalliol in the way of transparency and in productivity than he's shown. So I'd like to go on record also with opposing any idea of giving him a raise. He spent millions and built nothing. And he hasn't exactly improved community relations out in my area yet. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thunder
May I?
Dan.
Good morning, Dan Caruso, 305 Compton Street, New Carlisle. You know, we're told the way the political system works is if you don't like the way things are getting done, you put different people in power. You use your vote that way. In New Carlisle, we kind of got used to having to do things that way and still getting no results, because a lot of decisions were being made behind closed doors, and we find out 6 months later, oh yeah, we decided that 6 months ago in this closed door meeting that you're not a part of, but we have your best interests at heart here. Portage, the people at Portage Manor understand what we've been going through for the past at least 3 years, since June of 2018. Their voice, I elected a commissioner here to be my voice because I understand you can't have public meetings every time something comes up for debate, some ideas come up. Derek, he's my commissioner. He has to be there and hear these things. When I'm at the September 21st commissioners meeting, I see surprise on a lot of people's faces when Derek is questioning Bill Shalliol about things that happened at these closed-door meetings that Derek should have been at. All the commissioners should have been at. A lot of people should have been at. And now, and I find out that now not only don't I have, nobody has a voice, because all of us who voted for Derek to be our voice have been excluded from anything that's happening at Portage Manor, and I'm afraid that's what's happened over in New Carlisle. we're trying to make things better. We're trying to get a voice on this solar project. But hopefully the rest of the county sees what we're going through and sees that the Office of Economic Development, Department of Infrastructure Planning and Growth, I don't believe for 1 minute that Bill Shalio is the only one who set up these behind closed doors meetings without my representative there. I think this whole infrastructure planning and growth needs to be looked at and revamped. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
I'd like to speak, please.
Certainly.
Hi, I'm here to talk today about my concerns about your plans as commissioners for redistricting the county. In a Tribune article.
Name and address.
Oh, I'm
please.
sorry. I'm sorry. I spoke earlier. I'll repeat it. I'm Cheryl Nix, 17901 Sable Ridge Drive, South Bend, Indiana, 46635. My concern is about the redistricting plan. And in a Tribune article of October 3rd, 2021, Commissioner Castelny, you were quoted as saying, to kind of remove politics from it, we hired a firm to make sure that it is done properly, legally, above reproach, end quote. Unfortunately, you've decided to hire a former Indiana Speaker Bosma's a law firm, and two of the lawyers on that project represented the former president to overturn the 2020 election results in Wisconsin. To me, this seems quite political. I need to understand why $35,000 is being spent, my tax money being used, I believe, improperly. Your claims of attorney-client privilege denying the public access to the process and the maps is unacceptable. If you feel Democrats were unfair before, then I would suggest you create a nonpartisan committee to draw the maps. By hiring former GOP speaker and attorneys who worked for a GOP candidate, this feels more like a they did it, now we're going to do it and manipulate maps. This process needs to be transparent, and I urge you commissioners, despite the new state law, to work with the county council. Right now, this process reeks of partisanship and will sow mistrust with voters. Please, it's time to change course. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Hearing and seeing none, a motion to recess is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Dieter, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Fleming, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Castelny, how do you vote?
Aye.